Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to the YouTube component of my Good Gas series. And what this is a follow-up discussion from the Instagram live conversation I have every Monday on my Instagram page. And we do a little follow-up video just to recap and of course answer a question that is viewer generated. So the topic today is rejection, and what we're looking at, three things: what rejection is and how you can identify it, why it hurts on that visceral level, and what are some of the strategies you can use to rebound after rejection. The idea of life is that if you turn up in it with the right sort of mindset, you'll receive the right sort of energy, and then the world is going to respond to you based on that energy that you yourself are giving off. So we're always trying to identify where negative energy is, how we can convert that into something positive so we can get the blessings that the universe has already designed and attributed in our direction. But it's for us to open our minds and our heart to receiving that. Rejection is one of those experiences that will pull you away from life and its blessings and good vibrations, because it forces us to question our worthiness. Are we worthy of love? Are we worthy of support? Do we see ourselves as good people, and should people treat us like good people? Maybe we're terrible, awful and disgusting and nobody will ever love us. Those conversations with self usually stem from an experience with rejection, where somebody makes you feel as though you're no longer a part of the goodness of the world and you don't deserve to receive any of the goodness of the world. And we say, psh, away with that sort of mindset and thinking. Rejection can stem from different experiences, but what it is a feeling of isolation, and that isolation can be short-term or it can be chronic. It's ostracism. It's feeling as though we've been abandoned by people who love us, by people who we love, by people who aren't loving us the way we expect them to love us, but in a different way that has us questioning whether they really love us or not. It's a very, very intricate process of emotional experience, and not everybody will be able to identify that what they're feeling and what they're saying to themselves is as a result of somebody or a group of somebodies rejecting us. And it can stem from abuse. Funny enough, it can stem from getting the wrong kind of attention as a child, and you question your sense of worthiness and feel as though you've been rejected because of how somebody has expressed interest in you. And the science behind that is overwhelming. One of the reasons why rejection tends to hurt at that very visceral level, where you feel as though you've gotten a punch in the gut just because somebody is no longer talking to you, you feel unhealthy and unable to eat, is because our brain has been grown into a habit of recognizing rejection in the same way we recognize physical pain. So the same center of your brain has developed to interpret rejection in the way it interprets somebody punching you, somebody hitting you in the face, somebody biting you, somebody throwing a stone at you. We see and feel rejection from that same center that identifies physical pain, and that's why it hurts physically. Interestingly, what I found is that in the experience of early man, like our ancestors who lived certainly not in homes and without running water, but had to run up and down in the wilderness to chase their food, and hunted as groups and communities, very close-knit groups. They used rejection as a tool to teach you the need to work within social ethos, ethics, and established ways of doing things. So when you have violated the group ethic and the group way of doing something, you were isolated and rejected as a way of teaching you that without the group you're nothing, and you will physically suffer out there on your own without the protection and guidance and support of this group. If you don't shape up, we're going to continue to reject you until you learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn. And that lesson came with physical pain. So you can imagine functioning in a group where you hunt, but there's somebody watching your back. You sleep and there's somebody who stands guard while you rest. You come home after catching the meal, and then somebody prepares that for you while you do something else. When you no longer have the support of the community, when you've been rejected to go out there and fend for yourself, physical harm and pain will come to you. And so as our brain developed its own routine to interpret those things, it identified social rejection in the same way it identified physical pain, because in those early experiences, both of them were the same thing. So that's why it hurts the way it hurts. And then even more current and recent scientific exploits and research has shown that when people are rejected and face any feeling of chronic isolation, any experience of chronic ostracism, their blood pressure goes up, their cholesterol level goes up, And funny enough, their immune system starts to respond and act as though the person has been smoking for a long period of time. Can you imagine, and I'm repeating this for emphasis, that your body, your immune system functions as though you've been smoking all your life just because you're experiencing chronic loneliness and isolation and ostracism? The body interprets that particular emotional wound in such a physical way that it is critically important that we learn how to perform emotional first aid on ourselves. And that term emotional first aid I got from Guy Winch, a beautiful TED talk that he did speaking about the level of unpreparedness we have as human beings to deal with emotional wounds and to perform emotional first aid to heal those wounds. So understanding what rejection is and why it hurts this way, it then becomes very important that you know how to respond to it, how to identify it, so you can rebound. What we don't want is that you feel rejected and further isolate yourself, because that deepens the psychological wound that has been imprinted on your mind or your spirit or your heart. So we have 3 quick strategies that you can use. Quick in terms of how I'm able to present them to you, but when you apply them in your life, it's going to take repeated application of these 3 things so you can come out of that shell or that deep lonely space that you're in. The first thing is to stop that self-criticism and negative rumination, because rumination can be positive. Rumination is positive when you sit to critically assess in a very profound and meaningful way whether an act, a series of actions, a mental pattern of thinking conflicts with your core beliefs and who you think you are. So perhaps somebody asks you to start smoking, and positive rumination is where you sit and you say, but I've always been against smoking. I think it is bad. I felt very upset when I saw my father smoking. If I'm to smoke now, does that violate my ethos? Yes, it does. Am I willing to cross this ethical line with myself? Am I willing to violate my own ideas of what I think is wrong and right just to further this particular social relationship? No, I'm not. Well, you know, this is probably going to cost you a great experience on the town with this friend if you don't smoke. I do realize that. So am I willing to pursue this course of action and to reject this offer to smoke? Yes, I am, because it doesn't sit well with me and it makes me feel bad. That is an experience of positive rumination, where you're thinking critically about how something makes you feel, whether or not you want to do it. Does it conflict with your internal values? Will I pursue it? Will I not? No, I won't. And then you go ahead and you don't pursue it. Negative rumination sounds a little like this. I'm so dumb, I'm so unworthy, I'm filthy, I'm ugly, nobody wants me, I don't deserve love, I'm unworthy of any good attention. So when anybody gives me attention and they abuse me and rape and molest me, it's because I deserve just that and nothing more. I've lied before, I've cheated on my husband before, I've stolen before, I've been dishonest about my values and my beliefs before. So right now, I don't deserve any sort of honesty and love and respect from anybody around me, because I've done all these bad things that make me unworthy of life itself. Why am I alive? That's negative rumination. That's not critically and meaningfully assessing anything. It just makes you feel worse about yourself and encourages you to stay in that position of inactivity and victimhood. So stop that negative criticism of yourself. Stop that sort of rumination that does not empower and embolden you, because all that does is deepen the emotional scar that is already there. You would not see a bruise on your hand and dig your finger further in it when it starts to heal. You would not see that you've been cut and take something and deepen that cut just because. So when you negatively ruminate, it's akin to a wound that exists and you're just digging it up to make it worse and wondering why it hurts so bad. If you really want to perform emotional first aid on yourself, recognize what the wound is and then start to tend to it as you would tend to any other wound that you see on your physical self. We must come to respect our emotional well-being in the way that we respect our physical well-being, and treat with those wounds with the same sort of tenderness and care as we would a physical bruise on ourselves that tends to heal on its own. Emotional wounds don't. The second tip is to throw yourself back into social connectedness. Disconnecting yourself after one experience with one particular social group that has rejected you, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that your intimate partner rejects you and so you pull away from your best friend, your mother, your co-worker, your children. One particular experience with rejection should not define all your other experiences in life. And even if several of your experiences in life have pointed in the direction of rejection, that doesn't mean you should never connect with human beings again, because I already explained to you how debilitating it is on our bodies when we are isolated chronically, and you don't want that. Nobody wants high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and an immune system that works like a chronic smoker. That's unhealthy. If nothing else scares you, that should. So put yourself back into a position where you can connect and communicate with human beings, and just get back into the spirit of feeling a part of society and a part of life, because the way we feel about life, the way we show up in life, tends to affirm itself in other people. So if you pull away, people will pull away too. If you're tired of being alone, then you have to push yourself out of that comfort zone of loneliness, because the comfort zone is also uncomfortable. We don't like to be there, so get out of it. The third and final tip I'm going to share is that you need to find those people that affirm your personhood. There must be that one person in life that always makes you feel good. That one person who always makes you feel as though you want to try a little harder even though you've made a mistake. Yes, there's some bad things about my character, but this one person always helps to remind me that there are also some good things about me. So even if I'm experiencing rejection because of something I did or failed to do, if I'm responsible for the people rejecting me, if I know deep down that is me, do something wrong, and I've positively ruminated on the fact that I did this to cause this, and so if I don't want to feel this way anymore, I must stop doing these things. I've accepted that I bear responsibility. Find the person that reminds you how you can become a better person. It can be an absolute stranger who makes you feel good. It can be a random co-worker who every time you and them have a conversation, them just build you up and fill you up with some good gas and some positivity. And that makes you feel better about life, and it makes you want to live a better life. So find those persons who connect with you on a positive level and pull out the best in you when you're tempted to be your worst. The final thing I will do is answer a question. I invited through the Instagram live persons to email me questions that I would answer in this recap video. And the question I'm going to answer comes from Shay. She says, what do you do when you've been rejected, but it seems unintentional? The person didn't do it for spite. They didn't do it on purpose, but they've rejected you. That is interesting because it forces us to look at the rejector. The review video, as you can tell, focuses on the rejectee, the person who's been rejected, and what do they do? Shay, why I love your question is because it forces us to shift the lens on the rejector. So here's the truth. Sometimes it's not you, it's them. Gasp. Sometimes the way people are responding to you has nothing to do with you and what you've done. It's them. So what do you do when you realize that you've not done anything to deserve this, and perhaps the person isn't even rejecting you on purpose? They just seem to be responding in a way that doesn't take your feelings into consideration. They're going through some stuff too. Human beings go through things that make them not care about other people because they're so caught up in this emotional pain that they themselves are experiencing. So they don't have no time to think about what you are going to feel and what you are going to think, because they're so caught up in their own experience with pain. Don't take that as your responsibility. And I said that earlier. You aren't responsible for everything that people do. You have no right to own up somebody else's feelings, and they don't want you around. It doesn't have anything to do with you sometimes. Sometimes you probably just remind them of somebody that they don't like. And when they see you, they remember the person they don't like. What are you going to do about it? Not be yourself? Sometimes it's because the values themselves don't cohere. So maybe you like something that they don't like. You value something that they are in conflict with. Clear example, they're a Christian and you're an atheist. It's going to be difficult for them to not reject you because you value something that they don't value. It has nothing to do with you. It's their own values. And both of your values at that time and space don't cohere. They actually conflict. So they're going to reject you. If that experience with rejection makes you question your self-worth so deeply, and I know how sometimes it can really, really hurt whether somebody rejects you on purpose or not. Just to feel unwanted and just put aside and set aside will really hurt. And if that is what you're experiencing from that unintentional expression, write down all the strengths and values that make you a beautiful person. You have to back up yourself. You have to reinforce yourself. You have to remind yourself of what makes you worthy of respect and love, because the world will want to tell you otherwise. So make sure you have a list of those things that make you powerful, that make you beautiful, that make you valuable. And if it's a voice note you have to email to yourself so you can listen to it in moments when you're uncertain, send yourself that voice note. If that's a list that you need to have in your phone under your notes, so you go back in there on your iPad or on your computer or written in a book that you walk with, write it down. You must always have that list that reaffirms your inherent value and your worthiness. Because the world will seek to dispel that truth with the way it treats you, intentionally or unintentionally. So it is your responsibility to first affirm yourself and have something or someone around that reminds you of it in the moments that you're uncertain of it. And if you feel so emboldened, the final thing I'm going to advise that you do is talk to the person, confront them about it, because because you think they've done it intentionally, they might not have realized the impact it has on you emotionally. If you feel so emboldened, if this is somebody that's not a stranger, somebody you can actually have a conversation with, let them know. The other day I was saying something to you and you just sort of dismissed me and made me feel silly. Let them know. Maybe they'll apologize, maybe they won't. But remember, you are coming into that conversation having reviewed your list of what makes you worthy and valuable. So even if they're not sorry, even if you find out that they have done it on purpose, you are already very sure about what makes you a human being worthy of respect. So even if they don't show you the respect that you know you deserve, that doesn't mean you start thinking you don't deserve it and then walk around accepting disrespect and rejection from everybody in your life, or making rejection debilitate you in a way that makes you not want to show up in your life. You know that you are worthy of being received and treated with love, and so you're going to walk into your life and into all situations with love in your heart and with an expectation of love. But even if you don't get it, love in your heart already, and you have that list of your worthiness that you can review and remind yourself what makes you worthy. The final thing I want to say before I close this out, apart from thank you so much for watching, and if you liked the video, if you find this impactful in any way, you're always welcome to come back and watch it. Subscribe to the page so you get notifications on these recap videos. Share it with a friend, or you can drop a comment below on how you have dealt with rejection, because we all have our own experiences and we can keep learning and continue to learn from each other. I want to remind you that the way you feel about yourself is going to determine how you show up in the world, and the way you show up in the world is going to determine how people respond to you. So feel positive so you can live and be positive, so you can receive positivity from the world. I said in the beginning, I'll say it again in the end, the world is waiting to reward you with goodness, but you have to show that you believe you deserve it and create a space and an environment to receive that blessing and good vibration. So have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you all the very best in whatever you're pursuing. Be blessed, and may you be filled and receive unending love in your environment from absolute strangers or from people you even know. May love be the biggest blessing you receive today. Take care. Thank you.